Good evening. He celebrates his first 100 days in charge, and hardly a day has gone by without a policy announcement in response to worldwide financial crisis.
The New York Yankees warm up in the nets at the Detroit Tigers' home ground. Both teams are from cities where the new president and Congress have sent billions of rescue dollars to the fallen titans of Wall Street and the big three car makers of Motown. Here, hundreds of thousands of jobs depend on Barack Obama getting it right.
The car companies, it's a loan, but yet he gave billions of money away to the banks, and that's not a loan. I don't understand that.
But he was handed a lot of garbage to deal with, really. But all the promises and everything's supposed to be great. I haven't seen much.
I think people are more scared than anything else, and Barack brings hope. So we should all be back on our feet very soon.
The recession's crept from Detroit's inner city to suburbs like Warren, where Hugh Hatch lost his job at an auto supply firm. He's hoping his new invention will reverse his fortunes.
What this is the for saleinator. It basically helps you sell your car a little faster and more efficiently.
He welcomes emergency loans for the car companies, but fears the bank bailout isn't sufficiently regulated.
I was laid off during the Bush administration. So, can I blame that on Barack? I don't think so. There are some things that the bankers, and AIG especially, has done in the past 6 months that I really question. Why do we give them the money?
At AJ's Cafe in Ferndale, Michigan, they staged a marathon 288-hour concert in support of the Big Three. Dan Green was one of the acts. He retired from GM's press department 7 years ago. He worries GM will cut his pension and health care further to stay afloat, but is delighted his candidate won the election.
Man, I've been listening to this moron for 8 years. Now we've got somebody I can believe in. And the one thing I think about Obama, though, I would like to caution him not to bite off too much at one time.
So with just 100 days on the clock, the new president still garners broad support. Even detractors acknowledge the rough terrain the new administration is attempting to navigate. Robert Nisbet, Sky News, Detroit.
And Robert joins us now live from Detroit, the home, of course, of America's troubled car industry. And Robert, at the heart of America's economic woes is the problems with its car industry. Chrysler in particular, just 24 hours to try to secure its future. How much optimism is there?
There is obviously a lot of concern. Tomorrow is the deadline that Chrysler has to meet a number of conditions that have been set by the Obama administration. Now, we understand one of those, negotiating a deal with the unions, has been struck. But what they're trying to do now is try to convince many creditors, and there are 46 creditors of Chrysler, to convince them to write off a lot of the debt that they owe. And some of the big companies, such as Citigroup, the biggest creditors, have said yes to it, but some of the smaller hedge funds who are owed money are not so sure. So how important is all of this for Chrysler? What does the future hold, especially this alliance with Fiat that President Obama is also pushing? Well, I'm joined by a 16-year-old veteran of Chrysler who's worked for the company for that length of time, but also runs a company called FairImage.org. Not so much a company, more of a pressure group, which is designed to correct misconceptions about the American auto industry. Thanks for joining us, Chris Vitale.
Thank you for the chance.
And what about, the general policy to the Big Three? We've seen a lot of money go to Wall Street for bank bailouts, but the Big Three have really been dragged through the mud in many cases, have they? Do you think that's been unfair?
Yes, I do. I think that's because we have an administration in there right now that, is made up from the coast, and they practically have a cottage industry of disparaging and conspiracy theories like that we're all hiding a 100-mile-per-gallon carburetor in a basement and don't even realize we don't use carburetors anymore. I think there's a great deal of lack of knowledge. There's no one from science and technology that knows some of the things that we've pioneered in this industry.
Now, a lot of the perception is that the big three were too slow in producing models. They were left behind by companies like Toyota when it came to producing more environmentally friendly models. Is that a fair perception?
I don't think it is at all. What it doesn't, one of the things the Obama administration could do that's correctly within its domain of power would be to establish some sort of energy policy in this country. One thing that's instructive is even the transplant factories here only build SUVs, minivans, pickup trucks, and larger mid-sized cars. They don't build those compact models that the big three do build here. And, that puts us in a very bad position when you have gasoline at $1.50 a gallon that only occasionally rises up to $4. We're left with those infrastructure costs at all times. And foreign makers can come in here and come out of here very quickly just by ramping up the exports.
And what about the matchup with Fiat? I mean, does that actually make sense?
I think actually it does. I think if it's done right, it can be very good. I think Chrysler's smallest displacement engine is 2 liters, and I think Fiat's largest is 1.8. So they would actually notch in very nicely in the subcompact class where we don't currently compete. I think if it's managed correctly, this could be a good deal.